for the last few days, the mainstream media has been very vocal about this topic. They have very much been talking about of the results that have occurred in both the states of Kentucky and Virginia. Because of these results, they claim that President Donald Trump, as well as the Republican Party, they have potential challenges in the upcoming 2020 elections. Now, while I will state my opinion as well as my own rebuttal to a lot of these talking points that the mainstream media has, we need to first examine the conclusion the mainstream media came as a result. In order to do that, we need to look specifically first into Kentucky and then eventually into Virginia. So, Kentucky's election was focused more on focused solely on the state executive branch, which means that the state treasurer, the attorney general, the secretary of state, as well as the governor, a lot of those other positions were up for re-election or election, depending on how you on your perspective of it. But anyways, a lot of the eyes and a lot of the focus was on the governorship for good reason. After all, the governor is basically the head of the state, and of course, President Donald Trump was also very vocal about his support with incumbent Republican Matt Bevin to retain his governorship over Kentucky. Of course, with the November 5th coming to pass, there has been reports that Andy Beshear, the Democratic challenger, may have actually won the election, although there's been some debate over that, and there's been a call for a recanvass on the part of Matt Bevin. Sorry about that. I think I'm coming out with a cold. But continuing on, Andy Beshear, at this point, with since the recanvassing will not occur until November 15th, so far it shows him leading by at least 5,000 more votes than Matt Bevin, which is about less than 0.5%. That's how close it has come. Now, there's a specific reason as to why it shows this. Matt Bevin has been very unpopular within the state. He's been more focused on national policy rather than issues with local policy and local politics. And there's been some concern about over teachers' pensions, although I don't really know too much about that. But nonetheless, that controversy has further hit him with his own popularity, which has resulted in this. Now, a lot of the mainstream media have actually said that since Donald Trump has been very vocal about his support there, as well as trying to garner up as much support in the area to help Matt Bevin to retain his governorship, that this only shows that he may actually have trouble in the upcoming 2020 elections. Of course, they forget. Of course, this only shows this has yet to be finalized, especially with, like I said before, the recanvassing which will occur in November 14th. And there's even possibility that the legislature may be forced to decide on who would have won the governorship. And considering that Kentucky is such a Republican state, I would be willing to bet that Matt Bevin would be the one who would win the governorship as a result. Of course, we'll have to wait and see how the recanvassing will show the results, which will occur in about 5 days, as I currently make this video. So again, this only would show in the mainstream media's eyes that with the possibility of a Democrat flipping control of the governorship to the Democrats, that this will only have hurt the Republicans and Donald Trump in their own election efforts for next year. Now, they also look into a little bit with Virginia, although it's more focused about Kentucky because, like I said before, there's more focus on the governorship than basically the legislature, which is what the primary focus was in Virginia. So far, with currently the results of the election show that the Democrats managed to acquire 2 seats in the Virginia Senate. This forced the chamber to switch control from the Republicans to the Democrats, but just barely. They currently have a simple majority with them being 21 seats in control, while the Republicans still retain 19 seats. Now, in terms of the House of Delegates election, they have managed to obtain 6 seats while the Republicans lost 5. Now, I cannot say specifically what happened to that other seat. I think that was independent, but still, this only shows that the Democrats managed to obtain a good number of seats within the Virginia election. And oh man, I'm not gonna lie, it only shows that the Republicans were trampled at that point with the loss of both chambers of the legislature. Although I wouldn't say that this is much of a big issue as a lot of people would like to say. While it is true that the Democrats managed to obtain more seats at the expense of the Republicans losing both chambers, there wasn't really much focus behind Virginia as well as Kentucky, and of course there has been a major demographic change within Virginia. Although I would expect that the Republicans in 2 years' time would probably gain some new seats in the Virginia House of Delegates in 2021, which is when the Virginia House of Delegates will eventually be positioned for election again. So I wouldn't say that this would be a complete loss. Although again, demographic changes have been a major result, especially with a lot of the changes mainly reflecting around places such as Richmond or Northern Virginia, like Arlington, which are primarily democratically controlled. So it's not really much of a loss there. Although again, demographic changes as well as some criticism about the Republicans there. But still. Now here's my personal opinion about the entire situation as well as my rebuttal on both Virginia as well as Kentucky, because I think what the mainstream media is doing is trying to paint this as like a rebuke of the Trump presidency is a complete over-exaggeration. And I mean beyond that, because they have constantly looked at the special elections from 2017 to even now as trying to say that it's a rebuke of President Donald Trump. I bet a lot of people would remember about the situation with Alabama, how Republican Roy Moore and Democrat Doug Jones were fighting over control over the Senate seat, which originally Jeff Sessions held at that point, until he was nominated for Attorney General and eventually allowed by the Senate to obtain that position. Now, a lot of people in the mainstream media said that it was a rebuke from Alabamans over President Donald Trump. And they've been saying that. Like I said before, they've been saying that for a lot of elections now. But specifically with Alabama, considering that Doug Jones was a Democrat, it's been like maybe 3 decades since the Democrats actually held a Senate seat there. It was major use. Although they forget to mention that Roy Moore had to deal with sexual assault allegations as well as popularity for major issues during his time as a judge. So Yeah, just saying that his popularity only caused Alabamians to switch from a Republican to a Democrat. Although I would probably say that may change with Troy, especially with Jeff Sessions back in the ring. I see the same situation here with Kentucky. Matt Bevin is not very popular with Kentuckians. And it was a very, very close election. By 5,000 votes, the Democrat Andy Beshear managed to win. And of course, again, like I said before, there's currently a recount on well, not necessarily a recount. It's more of a re-examining of the original votes that were submitted. Now, and that could possibly change the results of the election. Although it's difficult to tell at this point until the results are actually in on November 14th. But here's another thing that the mainstream media forgets to mention. 5 out of 6 of the positions that were up for election in Kentucky were won by Republicans. In fact, Attorney General, the Republican Daniel Cameron, managed to win the seat of Attorney General, becoming the first black Attorney General within that state. Again, which made it to become major news. Again, this only shows that although the Republicans at this point may have lost the governorship, they still have major control over all other parts of the executive, from the Attorney General to Secretary of State to Treasury, etc. So I would say that this is that Kentucky is being rebuffing over President Donald Trump's his own presidency. I honestly do not think so. In fact, it's just more of the whole issue in terms of local politics. Nothing more. Now, in terms of Virginia, it's, again, like I said before, it's mainly more of a demographic change, mainly in Northern Virginia. Although I would expect that there may be a Republican comeback 2 years' time. Although that is just my prediction, and I have not much to back on that. I didn't really expect there to be much of a Republican win in terms of Virginia. Of course, like I said before, this hasn't been as much of a defeat as previously seen. In fact, back in 2015, the Democrats may have managed to win the House of Delegations by a major degree. In fact, back in 2015. Here we go. Oh, no, not 2015. Sorry. It was 2017. My bad. The Democrats managed to obtain 15 seats. Now, while they were still in the minority, that was a big hit. And since the Republicans only lost about 5 seats, specifically in the House of Delegates, this wasn't much of a issue as was back in 2017. And at the same time, since there wasn't much of attention calling on Virginia, I wouldn't say that this would effectively hurt President Donald Trump's campaign. Of course, the Democrats have their own issues as well, especially with the blackface governor, as well. The governor that did blackface, as well as a few other things. So far, the Virginia Democrats have their own baggage despite their win. And I'm pretty sure that eventually, if the Republicans manage to get reorganized within that state, that they would make a comeback. So yeah, I honestly believe that this is not really of a rebuke for President Donald Trump or anything of that nature. Rather, it only cements President Donald Trump even further. true, there's a possibility that the governorship may switch, and true that the legislature is in Democratic hands, but it didn't really affect Donald Trump's image as a result. It was mainly more involved about local politics. Nothing more, nothing less. So I would see this having a major hit on President Donald Trump as a result. In fact, I still retain my belief that Donald Trump will still win the upcoming 2020 election. That is personally what I believe, and it goes to show that that with the response that the mainstream media has with both the situation in Kentucky and Virginia, well, more so in Kentucky, that they are trying to be heavily biased and trying to say that this is a major repeat of President Donald Trump, when it's not. It's more of a local matter. And I'm pretty sure that once the 2020 election does come around, it will the focus will be more national instead of local. And I believe that at that point, you will see a major change. Not only will Donald Trump retain his presidency, but there will possibly be a Republican wave in both the Senate and House. Although that's just my prediction in terms of the legislature. I honestly still believe that that Donald Trump will still retain his presidency, and this will not really affect him in any way matter. But if it does affect him, it will only be in the short term. Nothing more, nothing less. My name is Noah Mean on The Earth Truth. Please post your comments down below, like this video, subscribe, and share with your friends. Also, if you have any issues with how I make my videos, how I speak, or how I frame these videos, or even if you have any ideas of improvement or any ideas of what subjects I should cover, please let me know in the description down below or directly message me. Thank you.
Almost heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountain.